we have to start like from predictive machine learning to generative AI. That's a journey we are making. So financial crimes and compliance, this keeps evolving. And predictive machine learning learns pattern from historical data. And Gen AI has potential to assist in bringing clarity to complex alerts and regulations. Because in financial crime, the primary thing what you do is basically you have the data, you look into the data, and then create alerts that will be investigated or not investigated. So where Gen AI can help is basically the potential to assist in building clarity to the complex alerts and provide an understanding of the regulations which are pertaining to them. So both must work together for stronger defenses. The summary of this slide, which will be in the end as well, but is that generative AI is at the moment is not here to replace anything or humans or any machines or any previous systems. Rather, it is here to assist, to enhance the productivity, efficiency, ease in the earlier existing processes, human beings, as well as models. That will be the crux of this discussion. Validation of these ensures accuracy, explainability, and trust. So our next slides will be focusing on basically a case study that what can be a case of generative AI, how they can help, and then how these aspects are validated, that will be discussed. Gen AI has potentials is real, but guardrails are critical. It's like giving your guard dog night vision goggles. Tempting potential of Gen AI. So let's discuss a little bit of Gen AI. We all know, but let's, for this base case, we discuss. Gen AI is moving fast in pilot programs across the industry, and the risk is not about using generative AI. The risk is about not using generative AI. And use cases are at the moment chat boxes, onboarding, compliance review in the domain of compliance. And the potential is too tempting for banks and regulators to ignore. But early pilots expose fragile points like hallucinations, retrieval gaps from drafts. And without validation guardrails, exploration can turn into exposure towards the risks. So, it's like hot cake, too tempting not to try, but check the ingredients first. Okay, case study. AML compliance assistant. So we will be talking about So how generative AI systems are built in practice, that we will be discussing. We will discuss an internal assistant for AML compliance and compliance teams. It guides this tool. This assistant will guide analysts on regulations, policies, memos, and procedures. It will act as first-line explainer, not a decision maker. Mind it, not a decision maker. And it will be designed to improve efficiency, reduce interpretation errors. It's like GPS for compliance. Shows the route, but you are still driving. So let's go with a business problem. So typically in the financial crimes, analysts face an overwhelming flood of policies, memos, and regulations. And knowledge is scattered across systems like files and teams. Institutional memory often lives in silence. The result is wasted time and inconsistent answers. And what we need is an assistant to answer what does policy X require in scenario Y. It's like looking for one stop in 5 different laundry baskets. If you human do result, it's very inefficient. That's why we will do Gen AI. So design choices versus RAG. Typically Gen AI are developed in 2 different strategies. One is RAG Retrieval-Augmented Generation, and one is fine-tuning. So retrieval RAG actually pulls context from document library in real time. So what it does is basically that RAG, you can think of LLM as acting as a librarian. You go to the LLM, you ask them, okay, I want this topic, information on this topic. The RAG will, the librarian will walk you through, tell you which books contain this, and tell you which sections it may be, where you can find your knowledge. So that's something you can intuitively understand what RAG is. Fine-tuning internalizes policies into model sprint. So fine-tuning LLM, you you can compare it to like basically an employee who has joined your organization, understood his document, read about those documents, and then you ask the question to him, and okay, fine, where do I find that information? And without going into any library, anywhere, he gives you the answer. So that's basically intuitive understanding that okay, what is a RAG and what is a fine-tune model. Both can work, but each time with trade-offs. And the choice depends upon update needs, transparency, and control. RAG is like checking a cookbook. Fine-tuning is like memorizing the recipes. Like a chef, there are two chefs. One chef, he is very skilled in basically his cutting skills, cooking skills, and all that stuff. So what he does is he never memorizes any of the recipes. He has made notes of each and every recipes. He has books associated with it. And if you give him what exactly you want, he will prepare by reading all those recipes, all those books, and give you the answer. Okay, fine. This is how you prepare. And another chef is he memorizes everything. That okay, fine. All the recipes, what you want, and look into it. But again, if you ask that chef to prepare something new, you need to update that chef. He needs to memorize the new information. So those are the challenges of fine-tuning. I will discuss because we have short time, 20 minutes, so I will just focus on RAG advantages at the moment. RAG retrieves and authorizes sources at runtime. So as I told you, like a librarian example, that okay, it retrieves, you go to the library, and then you say that okay, fine, I want this particular history book. So he will walk you to the library, show you the exact section, and if there's a good librarian, he'll show you and open the book and tell you, okay, fine, this is the section what you're talking about, that's what you're looking for. Here it is described. That's what RAG will do. It answers grounded on the latest documents, and that depends, the strength of librarian depends upon how new the books are. If the books are old, librarian cannot do much. You need to keep your library updated. I think you got the gist. Okay? It is easy to update. Just add new files to the library. Again, we are like, though your library needs to be updated, but it is not a very difficult job. All you have to do is that some new versions of books are come. All you have to do is you just need to update those versions, and either you add the new books of new version, or you remove the old versions and replace them with the new version books. It is transparent and auditable with direct citations. As explained in the librarian example, intuitively, exactly RAG is LLMs, genuine models work like that way. They are very transparent. They won't give you, if you prepare them right, they won't give you additional information from their own hallucination. Chances of that are less. And they give you direct citations from what they infer. Now, this infer, if they are even hallucinating, you can directly track them that okay, fine, it is written this, but you are inferring wrong. So that's basically understandable. But at least the mistakes are practical. It reduces the risk of outdated or hidden knowledge. You won't hallucinate much if you retrieve and then generate, because the scope of hallucination is decreased. Intuitively, this is basically the intuitive understanding. Okay, so why choose RAG for ML compliance? It's tractable, modular, and explainable, avoids hidden drift from fine-tuned weights. Because whatever happens is that, okay, let's go back to the chef example. See, a chef who has memorized all the information. When, let's take an example of the chef. Chef is basically expert in cooking French cuisine. Okay. Now, if you ask him to prepare something Italian, this particular chef never says, okay, I don't know Italian. He will try to figure it out something Italian, but in the French domain, which is, again, you don't want that actually. It provides, the RAG base basically provides citations to different outputs. And it is easier to align with SR 11.7 guidelines, which is basically the model risk management guidelines issued by US Bank. It builds trust with both users and regulators. It's like using Lego blocks. You can see every piece and swap them when needed. So let's have a bigger picture, okay, what a typical RAG pipeline is. So from the very fundamental way, RAG pipeline looks is like, okay, you start with a very big document, which is the domain knowledge, the data, what you have in hand, which is the scope of your project. You divide the data into small documents, and this process is called chunking. You chunk the data. Then you do an embedding process. Why embedding process? Because these LLMs are generative AI models which are LLM based. They are basically fundamentally neural networks. And in neural networks, they don't take information in the form of text. They only take information in the form of numbers, which is vectors or matrices. So this embedding process basically what it does is once the chunking is done, that chunking is basically you divide a big document into small documents, and then each small document is basically embedded and then converted into vectors. And this vector goes into a vector storage. And it is specialized vector storage, not a normal database like what we have in this normal SQL database or Oracle database. It's basically contextual vector storage. We'll come to that later in the subsequent slides. And then what happens is that you have a storage vector, then you make a query. And that query is converted again into a vector which is in line with the same structure, similar structure of these vectors. And then a retrieval process is there based on this vector. What is the relevant information? That retrieved information is there, and then augmentation is there with the query, and then prompt is there, and then LLM infers from these prompt the information to the user. So fundamentally, in the part of generative AI is actually you all have used ChatGPT. It's very fundamental. It's not difficult at all. When you're using for your personal basis, it is very good. But when you're using for compliance, you need to be valid. You need the validation. So first thing what you have to do is basically chunking validation. That okay, you need to check the cohorts, coverage, and metadata. We will discuss all these chunking, what is chunking in more detail in the next slides. Embedding validation. So this part, embedding, these vectors are there. This embedding structure needs to be validated. That's semantic fidelity. We will discuss what semantic fidelity in the next slides. Don't worry. Prompt validation. That, okay, when the prompt is done, how strong the prompt has been created, because this prompt will be dynamic. And inference validation. So once you have the response, you need to look into that. Okay, well, does the response make sense or not? So that's basically typical data RAG pipeline. So now each layer may have its own spotlight, and you see it likes work. Each is very important. Any breakage here will break the entire model. So actually, as this, you see, LLM is fundamentally only this part, but the whole system this has to be validated. It has to have proper guardrails. So validation framework, SRS 1175. So development. So we need to use actually the development use of document chunking, how the validations, how the embeddings are done, independent validation of test critical accuracy, hallucination, prompt sensitivity is to be looked. Then ongoing monitoring, like track hallucinations, track rate, drift and degradation that needs to be monitored, and outcomes analysis, like SME review of key risk indicators. And governance, version control for prompts, embedding retrievals at APIs. It's like pilot's pre-flight checklist. You skip one step and you are in trouble. As I told you, the whole structure needs to be ensured for accuracy, for compliance, and proper guardrails have to be there. So let's go deeper, a little granular. So let's talk about chunking. So it basically breaks small documents into smaller self-contained pieces. Each chunk should be kept full meaning, no half sentences, or else it will context will not be clear. The quality of chunking sets the ceiling for the retrieval accuracy. Chunk size variation. So too large for a chunk, it will risk irrelevant text, bundled. Too small chunks, broken sentences, lost meaning. Metadata text should be there. It's like add labels. So each chunk should have which section of the document, which page number, and what is the policy type. Suppose these are all in our domain when you are developing financial crime assistant. So all the policy documents, for example, these information has to be there. Each chunk, so that context is clear. An example is that okay, small document A, Document AML manual, section 2.3, page 14. So that such information should have, each chunk should have this information. Validation checks should be, add mini callouts like, okay, does the chunk make sense on its own? Coverage, is every section of the original document included? Integrity, does text exactly match the source? There should not be any OCR errors. It's like slicing a bread. You have a big loaf of bread. If you slice the bread into very thin, it will be very thick, sorry. You cannot chew it because if you have this much slice, big fat slice of bread, good luck eating it. And if you slice too thin, then you cannot put your stuffing into between the slice and it will melt. So you get a crust. That small chunking is very critical. Right chunking size is very important in developing any AI. Let's go chunking a little bit deeper. So it's challenges in chunking. See, overlapping versus non-overlapping issues are there. Structure breaks are coming into the picture. Context loss is a problem. And diversity of documents is also you need to take care into it. And scalability. The large document sets require automation, but reliable chunking. Validation checks should be coverage balance, semantic continuity, granularity checking, stress testing should be there, human review should be there. Human has to be there. They cannot ignore human review in this system. Design consideration should be there. Like smaller chunks will give you higher precision, but the recall will be low. Larger chunks can higher recall, but risk of irrelevant noise will be there. Metadata tagging adds searchability and traceability. Trade-offs between efficiency and semantic fidelity needs to be looked into it. Like, if you cut the pizza wrong, one person gets all cheese while other gets only crust. So that's basically the fundamental of chunking. Intuition wise. So now let's get into the embedding process. What exactly embedding is all about? Embedding process. So it's transformed each chunks into numerical vector. As I described, as I mentioned previously, each small document, because neural networks, these LLMs are neural network based and they cannot understand anything text, so they will be converted into vectors. It stores meanings, not just words, and help retrieve finite data. The key step is quality of embeddings. Validation checks are, does embedding captures the right meaning of AML regulatory context? Precision, do similar queries retrieve two relevant chunks? Cross-check against bold set of expert queries. Like turning a book into barcodes, you need the scanner to read them right. Sorry. Embedding, we'll go a little bit deeper. So challenges in embeddings are, same word can have different meaning, polysemy. Context loss, when service meaning overrides domain content. We'll look at this example. I have an example for that to make you understand intuitively. Biasness from training data. Domain shift. General embeddings often miss AML legal nuances. Vector stores growth fast, need efficient retrieval. Let's look at an example. Placement. Okay, this is an English word, placement, and within AML, the context of placement is like this. The transaction shows sign of placement through small cash deposits. In general English, the placement of ATM was near entrance. In HR context, the candidate's placement in the compliance team is confirmed. So you see, there is one placement and actual meaning is also same in the three sentences, but the context is totally different. So that part, embedding should be strong that it captures these aspects of these nuances. So advanced validation checks are like, does placement link to AML package and not HR? Clustering testing, AML terms grouped correctly together. I think with this example, it is clear what clustering we are talking about, right? Because the context is clear. Outlier detection, spot embedding far from expected clusters. Cross-model comparison, check consistency across embedding models. Traceability, always link vector back to exact source. It's like sorting puzzle pieces. If one belongs to another box, the whole picture breaks. You have two puzzles, right? And you swap the pictures from one to other, context is lost. That's all about embedding. So now let's go a little deeper more, and we are talking about prompt validation. Prompt guide LLM on how to use retrieve chunks, acts like instructions or template. Poorly designed prompts will give you vague. It's like, see, LLM or Gemini is basically, you can consider them, it's Gemini, it's basically artificial intelligence. And if you compare with normal human intelligence, if you give vague instructions to any person whom you need help, you maybe you are going to a taxi, you give a vague instruction to the taxi driver, or you go to a restaurant and to a waiter you give him vague instructions on what you want to eat. They will give you vague dishes or vague places. It's not guaranteed that the taxi driver will drop you at the right place if your instructions or addresses are vague. So that same is with generative AI models. So the revision checks are basically sensitivity, grounding, adversarial training. It's like giving directions. Say it wrong and you end up 3 blocks away. Prompt validation going deeper. So challenges and prompts. Small wordings. Prompts can be unintentionally biased with the response, and overload prompts lead vague to speculative text. Inconsistent formatting creates inconsistent outputs, and risk of prompt injection. Stress prompts, long queries, multiple clauses, or what if scenarios. Basically, if you have to put all the difficult prompts, but they should be not vague to test your generative AI. So let's take an example. Explain AML filing timelines versus what is a deadline for SAR must give the same answer. Prompt must not generate fake regulatory citations. Prompt should enforce escalation when uncertainty is high. Advanced validation checks include sensitivity testing, grounding checks, adversarial tests, role consistency. It's like typing the wrong number in a letter in a phone number. 1 digit off and you will reach a stranger. So that is the importance of prompt in generative AI systems. Now finally we'll go for the inference validation. Final step, the LLM converts retrieve chunks into the answers, and that is what the step we are talking about. And risk flow index sounds right but isn't grounded. Must preserve key data, threshold, deadlines, definitions. Validation checks include factual consistency, hallucination rates, KRI preservations, tone and style. So let's go a little deeper. Challenges in the inference are LLM outputs are fluent but they are not always factual. Risks of hallucinations, critical details missing, style drift, outputs may be blended retext, and AML examples are a threshold of a 10,000 threshold might be restated incorrectly as 10,000, 100,000 threshold. Filing a deadline 30 calendar days could change to 30 business days. Both are different. 30 calendar days, we all know it's basically 1 day, 1 October to 31st October, and 30 business days, it is around 1.5 months almost. I think 1.5 months. Yeah, 1.5 months. Assistant might seek escalation advice and escalation citations, make up sections of AML laws and policies. This is the biggest nightmare for any regulatory analyst, that your generative AI starts hallucinating some policies which don't even exist. So advanced validation checks include factual consistency, hallucination strips, critical indicators, tone validation, and comparative review. It's like student writing a perfect essay, but on wrong textbook. Trust me, that happened. I had a friend when I was in college, the exam was of physics, but the guy studied for chemistry. Don't tell me what happened afterwards. Don't ask me. So key takeaway. So now key takeaway is predictive machine learning models assess financial crime likelihood using patterns in historical data. Generative AI complements them by clarifying alerts and complex cases. They provide context from policies, memos, and regulations. They enhance understanding for investigators and regulators. And validation ensures results are consistent, explainable, and defensible. And together, detection and explanation gives you stronger financial crime prevention. Like having both a smoke alarm and fire marshal. One detects and other explains. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I saw so many people taking photos of the screen, so I'm sure everybody got something. Sorry. I guess it's not going to go through at the moment, but it's okay. We don't have time for the questions at the moment, but don't go too far. The summit will continue on the main stage. It's a wrap over here. Thank you so much for attending this Money and AI track. I'm so happy that you enjoyed it. I'm sure the speakers were all so insightful and you got